Thank you. Is this working? Hi. Is this working? Good morning. My name is Antonius Gagern, and I'm with a philanthropic foundation called Additional Ventures. And 18 months ago, we launched a big research and development program focused on one removal technology called ocean alkalinity enhancement. And I wanted to share a little bit about that journey and how it relates to Iceland. So, similar to Brad, I spent most of my career thinking about ways how to protect the ocean from our species, be it overfishing or pollution or tourism. And my work really focused largely on the tropics, where economically disadvantaged communities rely on the health of the ocean for their livelihoods every single day. And I worked with fishing communities and local and national governments, with impact investors, development banks, to nudge and pull and push and shape so that a sector like fisheries can thrive without harming the environment. But working on fisheries or habitat protection, as Brad was saying, is a real uphill battle, and it has become more and more difficult to ignore the big elephant in the room, which is CO2. Climate change today is the biggest and fastest growing threat to the ocean, and focusing merely on marine protected areas and trawl bans, for example, has started to feel, at least to me, a little bit like recommending physiotherapy to a cancer patient. And so 5 years ago, I was asked by a philanthropic foundation in the US to look into the question whether the ocean could be part of the solution to climate change and not only a victim. Specifically, I was asked to look into ocean-based carbon dioxide removal. And I thought, what a stupid idea, because the ocean is already suffering from acidification. Why on earth would we want to put more acid, more of the CO2 into the ocean? But I started doing the research and got so absolutely fascinated by the topic that I dropped everything I was doing and haven't focused on anything else but this question ever since. The question being, are there ways for us to accelerate the existing carbon pumps of the ocean to remove CO2 from the atmosphere? And there are two such pumps. The first one is biology. The second one is abiotic. So when you grow plants in the ocean, or when plants grow in the ocean, they absorb CO2 from seawater. And while much of this biomass eventually gets recycled back and CO2 released to the atmosphere, some of it actually makes it into the deep layers of the ocean, where it is sequestered for tens to hundreds of years. The other one, the abiotic one, works a little differently. When wind and rain over time disintegrate rock on land and wash it into the ocean, the pH of the ocean increases a little bit. It becomes more basic and less acidic. And when that happens, the CO2 in seawater is transformed into a very long-lived form of dissolved carbon called carbonate and bicarbonate. So in that way, you're locking CO2 away for tens to hundreds of thousands of years. Both of these pumps, the biological one and the abiotic one, can be accelerated. So you can grow more plants in the ocean and deliberately sink it to the ocean floor. Or you can artificially increase the alkalinity of the ocean, either by adding rock dust to the ocean or by removing acid from seawater through a process called electrochemistry. Interestingly, 5 years ago, nobody was working on those questions. This urgency for carbon dioxide removal hadn't really hit the ocean research community, ocean industry. And so I spent a few years building out the portfolios of philanthropic organizations in the US on grant making to fund a little bit of the science, increase the scientific consensus in the field. That's also when I ran into Brad years ago, talking about this when it all started. But this work quite radically changed for me 18 months ago when I joined Additional Ventures, which is a foundation run by Mike Schröpfer, who used to be the CTO at Facebook, and doesn't shy away from tough problems. And a couple of weeks into my joining, we asked the question, well, what are currently the most promising ocean CDR solutions, and what do they need to mature at the moment? And so we basically said the most promising solution right now is ocean alkalinity enhancement, because it is basically unlimited in its scalability. It locks CO2 away for tens to hundreds of thousands of years, and it could theoretically be done for less than $100 per ton. And what it misses at the moment are two things. One is there are open questions about safety and efficacy of that approach, and it has to be de-risked as quickly as possible. The second one, which has been mentioned before, is neither the markets nor the regulatory environment is ready for these kinds of approaches. And so we have to create the enabling environment for a safe and efficient and responsible sector. So this conversation led to a program that I'm now running, which is called the Carbon to Sea Initiative, which seeks to understand whether OAE, ocean alkalinity enhancement, and under which conditions it is a safe and scalable mechanism for CO2 removal, and then to build a responsible sector based on the findings. It is a program that is now funded by 9 philanthropic foundations in the US, in Canada, and in Europe. We're working with approximately 100 scientists and engineers and partners around the world. And the program is currently capitalized with approximately $50 million. And so what we're doing are 5 things. One is really trying to get the science right. Second is to provide the proof of concept technologies for ocean alkalinity enhancement to be a safe and scalable solution. The third one is to build field research sites around the world where researchers can really focus on what they do best, which is research, and not struggle with the permitting and the logistics and the infrastructure challenges that come with this research. The fourth one is policy campaigns to increase the funding, the public funding into that space, because it is not millions but billions of research funding that we require for approaches like that. And the fifth one is to build the community of ocean alkalinity practitioners, bring them together, make them work and coordinate in the best way possible. And so let me spend the last minute to just tie it back to Iceland. As we were building out field research sites around the world, we were looking for partners who can deliver against this. It's an incredibly complex and ambitious endeavor because it hasn't been done before. There's no precedent. Every step is uncharted territory. And so a year ago, I was introduced to Transition Labs in Iceland, and I have to figure out who introduced me, because I have to send them a big chocolate cake or something, because that was a really a game changer for us, because Transition Labs not only opened the door for us to anyone we wanted to talk to, from academics to mayors to law firms and engineering firms and regulators, but also has managed every workflow, every grant, every contract that we've made, and without them it would have been impossible to get so far as we have here in Iceland so far. And while we're still very much in a scoping phase, we're getting closer to identifying a few sites in Iceland where this research could actually happen. And when we're getting closer, we're going to engage with the communities around Iceland to understand under which conditions they would be actually supportive of this research. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you Transition Labs for the support.